And elsewhere, a Kenya National Union of Nurses official who went missing last Wednesday was on Saturday found murdered and his body dumped in Kimondi Forest in Nandi County.
In 2019, 40-year-old Ferdinard Ongeri was working in Kisumu County as the Kenya National Union of Nurses deputy chairman and a head nurse at Riat Dispensary. When not fighting for the nurses' labor rights and supporting patients at the dispensary, Ongeri was a dedicated family man. He was married and shared a loving relationship with his wife called Prosi, also a nurse, and together they were blessed with 3 kids. But despite having a thriving career and a loving family, Ongeri was growing concerned about his weight gain, which was making it harder for him to move around easily while attending to patients. According to the DCI, Ongeri confided in his friend about his worries with his weight, and the friend introduced him to one Mawanda Asuman, a Ugandan witchdoctor and herbalist. Sadly, meeting Mawanda was the start of a tragic chapter in Ongeri's life, as he fell into heavy debt and in the end lost his life due to the witch doctor's greed, malice, and deceit. Welcome to Silent Shadows. As always, if you appreciate our true crime storytelling, support our work by liking and subscribing. Together we uncover compelling tales of crimes and mysteries in Kenya and beyond, presenting well-balanced narratives that respect the victims and their loved ones. Mawanda Asuman and his assistant Jamiru had been practicing their trade in Uganda until December of 2016, when they decided to move to Kenya in search of greener pastures. After relocating to Kenya, they settled in Luanda village, Vihiga County, where they set up a clinic and marketed themselves as traditional doctors. By mid-2017, Mawanda and Jamiru had moved once again, this time to Kisumu, where they continued their operations. In Kisumu, they worked out of a makeshift clinic by the roadside, and they plastered placards all over the city advertising a range of services that they offered, including helping people with challenges in their love lives, homes, businesses, and even cleansing your destiny, among other things. It was in Kisumu that Ongeri was introduced to Mawanda and his assistant Jamiru by his friend. Initially, Ongeri sought Mawanda's help with his weight gain, but as their relationship grew, he opened up to him about other challenges he was facing at work. Ongeri confided in Mawanda that he feared some of his colleagues were trying to push him out of his job. Mawanda assured Ongeri he could provide him with spiritual protection to safeguard his job and secure his destiny. But as you'll see, Ongeri's problems only worsened the deeper he got involved with Mawanda, who saw him as nothing more than a cash cow. For starters, Mawanda asked Ongeri for a large sum of money to help him overcome the challenges he was facing at work. As time went by, and as Ongeri continued to see the witch doctor secretly and frequently, he got into massive debt. Because for every problem Ongeri went to the witch doctor with, the witch doctor would ask for large sums of money to help him overcome it. Ongeri ran into huge debts as he borrowed money from his family and colleagues to keep up with Mawanda's demands. It was like a hamster wheel. He couldn't escape. He even took a 1.5 million Kenyan shillings loan from the bank, and according to the DCI's account of events, he gave a large chunk of the money to the witch doctor and used the rest to build a house in his home village in Kisii County. Ongeri didn't stop there. He even bought Mawanda a phone and SIM card so they could communicate in secret without his family finding out. As Ongeri kept borrowing money to meet Mawanda's growing demands, debt collectors began showing up at his door. Feeling overwhelmed, he opened up to the witch doctor about how deep in debt he was and asked for his help. Unbelievably, Mawanda asked Ongeri for 200,000 Kenyan shillings, claiming he needed it to contact the spirits so they could bless him with millions to clear his debts. Ongeri was excited by the prospect of receiving the promised millions and immediately began working on raising the 200,000 Kenyan shillings. He managed to secure 150,000 Kenyan shillings through credit, which he handed over to Mawanda, promising to top up the remaining amount later. Mawanda used the money for his own gain, channeling it into expanding his business. More specifically, in June of 2019, he opened another so-called clinic in Kitui, funded entirely by Ongeri's desperation. As days passed and the promised millions never came, Ongeri began to realize the painful truth. Mawanda was a con artist. Feeling betrayed and desperate, he threatened to report both Mawanda and his assistant Jamiru to the police. But Mawanda pleaded with him to be patient, claiming the spirits needed more time to deliver the fortunes he desired. When none of these promises materialized, Ongeri grew increasingly frustrated. He kept demanding his money back and continued to threaten Mawanda with legal action. That's when Mawanda decided to silence him for good, and in July of 2019, he instructed Jamiru to hire someone to eliminate Ongeri. Jamiru hired a hitman, a man by the name Oti, from Nyamarisa flyover in Kisumu County for a fee of 50,000 Kenyan shillings. How Jamiru knew Oti is actually hilarious. You see, back in January of 2019, Oti and his gang of thieves had attacked Jamiru twice early in the morning while he was out putting up posters to advertise Mawanda's services. That's how they met. So when Jamiru needed a hitman, he went straight to the same guy who had mugged him twice. With the hitman in place, Mawanda moved on to the next phase of the plan. He instructed Jamiru to convince Ongeri to travel with him to the mountains to meet the spirits and complete the process of receiving his promised wealth. Unbeknownst to Ongeri, he wasn't going to meet any spirits. He was going to meet Oti, the hitman hired to kill him. Ongeri agreed to meet Jamiru on Wednesday, 24th July 2019, for them to go to Kimondi forest in Kapsabet and meet the spirits. Wednesday, 24th July 2019 started off like any other day for Ongeri. That morning, he left his house and headed to the Kisumu County government offices, where he and his colleagues from the Kenya National Union of Nurses successfully negotiated a promotion deal for the nurses with officials from the county's health department. The meeting wrapped up at around 11 a.m., after which Ongeri went to Riat dispensary where he worked. At the dispensary, he asked a colleague to cover his shift for the day. Then he went to his house in Dago Market. Meanwhile, that same morning, Jamiru met with Oti to finalize the plan to murder Ongeri. They agreed that Oti would travel ahead and wait at a petrol station in Kapsabet. Later, Jamiru would bring Ongeri there and introduce Oti as the man who would guide them to meet the spirits. When Ongeri got home, he prepared for the journey ahead, and at around 3 p.m., he called a boda rider named Ayubu, who dropped him off at Kiboso Market at the Kisumu-Kakamega Highway Junction. Before parting ways, Ongeri told Ayubu that some people from Kisumu would be picking him up and that they were going to Kapsabet for a meeting. He also told Ayubu to expect a call from him between 9 and 9:30 p.m. to come pick him up from the same spot and take him back home. Jamiru met Ongeri at Kiboso Market and together they boarded a matatu to Chavakali. From there, they took a second matatu which dropped them at the petrol station in Kapsabet where Oti was waiting. Upon arrival, Jamiru introduced Oti to Ongeri as the traditional doctor who would lead him to the spirits. Jamiru stayed behind at the petrol station while Ongeri and Oti went to Kimondi forest. In the forest, Oti tortured and brutally took Ongeri's life. The horrifying act took nearly 1 hour. After the murder, Oti returned to the petrol station and met with Jamiru. He handed over Ongeri's belongings, that is his backpack, a power bank, and a Techno tablet phone to Jamiru. Jamiru then paid him the agreed fee of 50,000 Kenyan shillings and also gave him the phone he had used to communicate with Ongeri, instructing him to dispose of it. With the evil deed complete, the two men then took a matatu back to Kisumu. All this while, as Jamiru and Oti were executing Mawanda's evil plans, Mawanda had briefly traveled to Uganda in an apparent attempt to distance himself from Ongeri's murder. Ongeri's wife became worried when she couldn't get hold of him via phone on the night of Wednesday, 24th July 2019. Concerned, she informed her mother-in-law the next day, Thursday, 25th July 2019, that she hadn't been able to reach Ongeri. The mother-in-law then called one of Ongeri's colleagues from the nurses' union who had attended the meeting with him the previous day. However, the colleague told her she hadn't seen Ongeri since the meeting. As hours turned into days, Ongeri's family, friends and co-workers searched for him, but their efforts were in vain, and one of Ongeri's colleagues, called Kevin, filed a missing persons report at Dago police station. Once the report was made, police began tracing Ongeri's phone. The last signal from his phone was detected in Kaptumo, Kapsabet in Nandi County. Clinging to hope, the family traveled all the way to Kapsabet and filed another report with the local police. The phone signal had given them a glimmer of hope that Ongeri might still be alive, and they focused their search in Kapsabet, but they did not find him. 5 days later, on Monday 29th July 2019, a herdsman by the name Samuel Kemei discovered Ongeri's decomposing body in Kimondi forest and immediately alerted the police. When the DCI detectives and Kapsabet police arrived at the scene, they were met with a horrific sight. Ongeri's body was found without clothes. His throat was also slit open. He had a deep wound on his mouth, a broken neck, and bruises all over his body. After processing the scene, the police took his body to the Kapsabet County Referral Hospital mortuary, where he was identified by his wife, mother, and other family members. The horrific discovery of Ongeri's body sparked peaceful demonstrations by nurses across Kisumu County, demanding a swift and thorough investigation into their colleague's death. Despite the mounting pressure from the Kenya National Union of Nurses, it wasn't until September of 2019 that the culprits behind Ongeri's murder were finally arrested. So now, September of 2019 would prove to be a pivotal month in the case, as a series of crucial events began to unfold. Firstly, Mawanda, the self-proclaimed witch doctor and herbalist who had instructed his assistant Jamiru to find someone to kill Ongeri, returned to the country on Friday 6th September 2019. Upon his return, Jamiru handed him some of Ongeri's possessions, including his backpack. 6 days later, on Thursday 12th September 2019, the detectives finally made a breakthrough in the case when they traced one of the phone numbers that had been in frequent contact with Ongeri in the days leading up to his murder to Jamiru. Acting swiftly, the detectives arrested Jamiru in Nyamasaria, Kisumu County. During a search of his house, they recovered Ongeri's phone and power bank, which served as further evidence of his involvement in the murder. The following day, Mawanda, the mastermind behind the murder plot, was arrested in Kitui County. A week after the arrests, Jamiru would turn on his boss when he recorded a confession before Senior Principal Magistrate Olengo at the Nyando Law Courts. In his statement, he detailed their elaborate scheme to financially exploit Ongeri and kill him. Additionally, Jamiru entered a plea deal with the prosecution, agreeing to testify against his boss Mawanda in exchange of a reduced sentence. Jamiru was subsequently sentenced to 15 years in prison by Justice S.M. Githinji at the High Court in Eldoret, and he is currently serving his sentence. As for Mawanda, his case remains ongoing in court. You may also be wondering what happened to Oti. Well, Oti, who took part in the gruesome murder, fled and is still wanted by the police. We will be sure to keep you updated on any new developments in the case. We send our deepest condolences to the family and friends of Ferdinand Ongeri. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you for joining us today. If you appreciated this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to be notified when the next video is up. Until then, please take care, stay safe, and always trust your gut.